Have you ever played Slavs and Indians? No, neither have I. It's a stupid game. But if we did, we'd most certainly shoot a single action revolver, such as this guy, the brand new Ruger Wrangler 22 single action revolver. And this is the long-awaited deep dive on the gun. Wait, the hell? It's only 6 rounds? Is this one of those brand new ban compliant models? And it really doesn't take magazines? I don't think Putin would approve. What's up everybody, and thanks for joining Slav Guns. Earlier this year, I had an opportunity to get familiar with a number of new products that were introduced at a private Ruger media event. One of those products is now the very popular Ruger Wrangler 22 long rifle single action revolver. I did a 5-minute squat down video on the gun at the end of April. Unfortunately, I didn't have a copy of one of the guns with me. I made the mistake of underestimating the popularity of this gun and requested other firearms instead. One of those is now the very popular Ruger PC Carbine 9mm with the M-LOK rail. It was one of my first videos and just crossed over 72,000 views. I'm simply blown away, so thank you. As for the Wrangler, unfortunately for me, the gun has been very scarce at retailers, and most often they're sold out as soon as they come in, and they're typically bought by store employees. The good news is, someone's shooting. The good news is, one of my good friends was able to purchase one himself and has let me borrow his gun so I can do this video and have the video finished. Fortunately, we've had the opportunity to shoot the gun for about a month or so now. So, let's talk about the gun. The Ruger Wrangler is a single action revolver chambered in 22 long rifle. In essence, it's the baby brother to the Ruger Single 6. The gun was largely unexpected, but has so far been a tremendous hit, and most certainly a response to the very popular, similarly priced Heritage Arms Rough Rider. While I generally don't consider the price of the gun a feature, especially as with most of the handguns, you're going to be spending a lot more money on the ammunition and range fees than you do on the purchase of the gun, in this case, its MSRP and targeted street price is what makes this gun unique. Ordinarily, you would expect to pay around $300 for an entry-level 22 pistol and a bit more for a revolver, and you simply need to look at the Smith & Wesson 617 to see that a quality rimfire 22 will easily set you back $700 or more. The Ruger Wrangler has an MSRP of just $249 and a street price that's targeted around $200. With patience, you should be able to get this gun for about $200 all in, including the sales tax and transfer. Yes, a Ruger revolver for $200. $200, it must be junk, right? Wrong. It's certainly a quality firearm. If there's any one manufacturer that can put this together, it's Ruger. For both experienced revolver shooters and people who have followed my financial firearms research, it would not come as a surprise that Ruger is a leader in the space. While firearms would certainly be a correct answer, I'm talking about manufacturing. While there are many gun companies in the space, I feel Ruger is an amazing manufacturing company that just happens to produce guns. Because of that manufacturing experience and focus, they're able to get this gun into your hands for under $200 while also remaining profitable. All of this goes to the product design and the packaging. Starting with the frame, we have a cast aluminum alloy frame. By using aluminum alloy, Ruger is able to get the weight down to just 30 ounces. This is, of course, an area of debate between cast and forged, but ultimately it comes down to that there is good casting and bad forging and vice versa. Ruger is a leader in the cast firearm space, and you simply need to look at the GP100 to see how good the reputation holds up. The cylinder is steel, S-T-E-E-L, for those who watched my previous video, and you have a 4.62-inch barrel that's also made of steel, and it's cold hammer forged. The cold hammer forged barrel is going to be able to provide a lot more longevity and accuracy. One of the ways Ruger is able to provide value is that the firearms are finished with Cerakote. It's finished in Cerakote versus polished or blued. The gun is available in 3 different colors: black, silver, and this bronze. Do keep in mind, however, that the cylinder on all 3 models will be black. The benefit of using Cerakote is that it should provide for a more durable finish over time. Continuing with the how do you pay for a quality gun for $200, the gun's sights, the rear sight, are cast right into the frame and they're not adjustable. The gun is completed with these fairly nice grips, but if you want something a little bit different, the gun will accept any grips made for the Ruger Single 6. For the responsible gun owners, the gun does not skip on safety. There are 2 main safety features on this gun. First, you do have a transfer bar that is right in the back. And secondly, you do have an interlocking cylinder gate. So if you have the hammer cocked back, you're not going to be able to open the gate. But if you open the gate, you're not going to be able to cock the hammer back. So you do have a little bit more degree of safety right on there. Finally, the biggest question that popped up for this gun in my previous video and other reviews is 22 WMR, or Winchester Magnum Rimfire. The competing product, the Heritage Arms Rough Rider, has the ability to take 22 MR cylinder, so how come the Ruger Wrangler is only 22 long rifle? While I can't speak for the Heritage Arms gun, as I didn't have a chance to shoot one yet, I did reach out to Ruger and ask them about the Wrangler in 22 WMR. The answer was this: the current Ruger Wrangler configuration chambered in 22 WMR did not meet our standards for endurance or reliability. We're aware of our customers' desire to have such a chambering in the Wrangler. I suppose this comes down to could versus should. As we know, Ruger stands behind their products. So while I suppose it's technically possible, perhaps they simply did not think they can make it work at this price point in the package while still standing behind the quality of the gun. The good news is, as always, go to Ruger's website, there's a Ask the CEO feature, and let them know you want to see a Ruger Wrangler type gun in a 22 WMR configuration. Perhaps in the future they'll come out with a value type gun like that that will meet the standards for 22 WMR. So let's take a look at how it shoots. So, my first impressions on the Wrangler. This is simply a stupid fun gun that deserves to be in every gun safe. I think nothing brings the point home better than seeing this gun be the most popular firearm at the Ruger media event. Seeing those alpha male former operators shooting it pretending they're cowboys with a huge smile on their face. Though I suppose we were in Texas, so maybe we weren't pretending that we're cowboys. I think everyone underestimated the demand for this cheap, fun revolver with a Ruger name on it. What I really like about the gun is that it looks great. Obviously, we live in the world of Hillary locks, 20 pages of warning messages, and 12-pound New York triggers for Inverg locks. I really appreciate that the face of the gun is clean on both sides. So on one side you have the Ruger Wrangler, and on the other side you have the serial numbers. The warning message is neatly put right underneath here on the barrel. The only thing I'm not a fan of is the lack of adjustable sights and the 5-pound trigger pull, which is a bit heavy for me. Again, for me. Neither of these will be issues for the vast majority of the people who are going to be purchasing this gun. So who should consider buying this firearm? As I mentioned in my 5-minute squat down video, I believe this gun is perfect for two groups of people. The first one, and perhaps the most obvious one, are the cowboy shooters who are looking for a gun that has either less recoil or will be cheaper to shoot. As we know, a brick of 22 is about 20 bucks. The second group, and by far the bigger market, is brand new shooters or instructors teaching new shooters to shoot, be it organized classes or even parent teaching their child or teaching your loved one how to shoot. I know I'll be using one of these as one of the first firearms going forward. So why is this a perfect firearm to teach and practice with? Because it's a single action and it's cheap, in a good way. My personal philosophy is that everyone's first handgun should be a 22 long rifle. Despite that your typical firearm for new shooters is a full-size 9mm if they listen to their friends, or a carry-size 9mm if they went to a store and said, hey, I want to buy a gun and I want to use it for personal protection and home defense. So you know how the conversation goes. Even though logically, people understand that a 22 long rifle revolver is the ideal firearm platform, very few people want to spend 400 bucks on a 22 and then 500 bucks on a real gun. And I suppose an example of this in the motorcycle world is people who are buying a 600cc bike rather than starting on a 250. The Ruger Wrangler, being priced at about 200 bucks, will eliminate the cost issue. And I apologize if I sound dismissive. Don't get me wrong, 200 bucks is 200 bucks and it's a lot of money for most Americans. But we are talking about $500 plastic fantastic guns on the other side of it. You're absolutely going to spend more money on ammunition and range fees and shooting accessories than you are on the price of the gun. Unless you belong to a private gun club, 200 bucks is essentially 2 or 3 range trips to a public range. So rent a lane, rent a gun, buy a few boxes of ammo, buy some targets. If you're a baller, 200 bucks means going to a place that rents full auto and 2 mag dumps out of a machine gun. The Wrangler is cheap to buy, but most of all, it's going to be cheap to shoot and train on. A 500 round brick of 22 will cost you about $20, while 500 rounds of 9mm or 10 50-round boxes is going to set you back about $100. Pulling the trigger 500 times on a low recoil 22 revolver will do far more for your skills with a firearm than shooting a higher recoiling firearm just 50 times and having to stop because you spent all your money on ammo. Here's the secret. Marksmanship comes from trigger control and not your ability to handle recoil from a big bore firearm. This is why professionals and competitive shooters will be walking around the house dry firing their pistols and have paper targets plastered all over their walls. Or, like me, they'll look at outlet covers, doorknobs, and smoke detectors as mini targets. That covers the cost issue, and we started reaching upon the fact that it's an ideal training pistol. So why single action revolver versus, say, a 22 rifle or a semi-auto handgun? Simple, it's safety. To use the motorcycle analogy, there are those who fell off the bike, and then there are those, the rest of them, who are going to. In the gun world, it's only a matter of time until you have a negligent discharge. If you haven't, you're either a liar or you haven't been shooting it enough. You know when you visit an indoor range and wonder, how the hell did somebody manage to put a hole in the ceiling? Let me tell you, generally it's not the first shot, it's the second negligent discharge. With a semi-auto and a new shooter, and it possibly happened to you, you pull the trigger, the recoil is more than you expected, and you either didn't have a solid grip on the gun, or you happen to slap the trigger and from the recoil, boom, the gun goes off again. Although typically, this shot the gun is facing not at the berm, but up in the sky. It happens to everyone. And it happened to me when I was a scrawny 20-year-old shooting a .44 Desert Eagle for the first time. Fortunately, it wasn't an indoor range, the gun was not pointed straight up, and the negligent discharge, it did hit the back of the berm, granted towards the top of it. That was one out of the 3 NDs that I had over the last 15 years. And yes, you do remember them all, and that's going to be stories for other times. With a single action revolver, that's never going to happen. In order to fire, you need to cock the hammer back and then discharge the firearm. At that point, you can keep on, so once you pull the trigger, you can pull the trigger all you want. It's not gonna go off again unless you manually cock the hammer and get the revolver back ready to fire again. Working with new shooters, this gun is perfect. Keep in mind, with double action revolvers, so Ruger GP100, Smith & Wesson 686s, that are both double and single action, you can still bump fire, negligently discharge the second round. And I've seen it happen because even when the hammer is down on a double action revolver, you can still pull the trigger, and it's going to rotate the cylinder, cock the hammer, and discharge the firearm. And even though the trigger is a lot heavier in double action, it can still happen. Bottom line, whether you're a new shooter, an instructor, or even an experienced gun owner who just wants something cheap to shoot and something that's going to be hella fun, grab a Ruger Wrangler. It's a very good revolver that comes with Ruger's exceptional customer service and a very manageable price tag. As always, thanks for watching Slav Guns. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I'm sorry it's a little bit long in the making, but with popular gun, sometimes it's very, very tough to get them. If you haven't done so already, make sure you smash the like button, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. As always, you can support the channel. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/SlavGuns. And you can check out the website, slavguns.com, for a bit more details on these guns and some links. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. One advantage we haven't talked about yet for revolvers versus semi-automatic pistols, and particularly rimfire pistols, is that revolvers can take and fire a variety of rimfire ammunition. So even though this is a 22 long rifle revolver, it'll fire like 22 shorts, and more specifically, a lot of the new ammo that's coming out right now, that's supposed to be like, for example, CCI quiet. That type of ammo is generally not going to cycle in a semi-automatic pistol. Sometimes in a rifle it does work, but you'll have absolutely no issues with this. Why? Because, well, when you fire it, you're going to cycle it yourself. So it doesn't matter. Now, talking about the trigger, the gun, obviously, it's a single action revolver, so there is no such thing as a double action pull. And with a trigger gauge, I've managed it to get it at right around 5 pounds on the dot. And it's a very clean break, much like you would expect from revolvers. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is that it is not going to be a target type trigger as you would find, let's say, for example, in the GP100 match gun or a lot of the Smith & Wesson performance centers, or from anybody who might do a trigger job on their revolver. This is a heavier pull. It's a very nice pull, but it's going to be perfect for the intended purpose, which is going to be for training brand new shooters or even as a training gun for single action shooting. While I ordinarily wouldn't make any videos on how to load a gun or how to load a magazine, I mean, there's plenty of stupid videos for that. If you're not already a single action revolver owner, it might be, hey, how does it actually work? So in order to load the gun, you have to keep in mind that it's a single action revolver. The cylinder does not come out, so you load it, you have to load it through a loading gate. So the way that you do that is with the hammer down, what you would do is open the gate, rotate the cylinder, and you would put the rounds in one by one. Okay, it's a 6-shot. Once you discharge them, basically what you do is there's an ejection rod on this side. Align it, press down, and that rod is gonna take out the spent case. And the easiest thing is with your bottom part of the thumb, rotate the cylinder and pop them out. Okay. Once it's empty, you can load the new rounds. Close the gate and you'll be ready to go. One of the questions that you guys had was, like a typical Ruger Single Action Revolver, does the cylinder spin? And the cylinder does spin in either direction. So when you close the gate, you do have to index it just to make sure it kind of gets there, so that when you cock the hammer, the cylinder is going to be in the right spot to index. And then you can discharge the firearm. Once again, it is old school, so there are no magazines, there are no speed loaders. This is purely classic Western cowboy guns. And before we go, I wanted to give a quick shout out and a big thanks to both Card Shark for letting me film with his revolver, and I want to thank Todd at Freedom Sports, who is the LLC, and he helped me out with a lot of the transfers for the firearms. So make sure to check them out, and I'll include the links in the description box below. Perfect, I think I'm done. Yeah. So do you think that this works with the Adidas? I mean, maybe if I put 3 stripes on it, it might be cool. Pew, 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 pew. Bang, bang, bang. We're really not gonna hit episode 11 with this. Can you imagine that? Yeah. All right. The advantage of revolvers, you can use a variety.